Hi y'all, I'm Allison. Welcome to the Mighty Bujo. Today we're going to be painting the cover page for my December 2018 bullet journal. And we're going to use Koi Watercolors. Now the image that I'm doing today will be a Christmas scene, and I already have it sketched out as you can plainly see. But I did erase most of the lines so they'd just be enough for a guideline while I paint. Now, there will be a video to go along with this one that will show exactly how I drew the scene, along with instruction on how to do one vanishing point perspective drawing. That's so you'll have everything in scale and it'll look right. But today we are just going to paint. And we're going to start out with the rolls of wrapping paper over here on the left hand side of the page, on the tabletop actually, and then we'll use these wrapping papers to wrap the boxes that are on the right side of the table. Now I wanted to start with a wrapping paper, red wrapping paper with white polka dots on it, but I didn't quite paint those dots in any resemblance of round. They're not even close to being round. It was a lot harder to do with the brush, and I kind of rushed through it, so I thought, well, maybe it'll look better if it's darker, and then I was like, okay, this isn't gonna work, so we'll just have solid red paper. Yeah. And that's what you got to do while you're doing your creative pages in your books. If it's not working, then just change it. So now I wanted a bright green to go with the vibrant red, and all of my pods and my now the pods were right, so I decided I would mix my own just by using blue and yellow, and voila, green. And I finally got the right shade. So the second roll of wrapping paper is going to be striped, which is a lot easier to do than polka dots, trust me. So now that I knew what the paper was going to look like, I can paint this first present. And while that dried, I could get the next roll of wrapping paper set up. And this is a diagonal stripe, which will be used on this box. Now, to get it to look like the present is actually wrapped, I changed the direction of the stripes from the front to the side. And for our last roll of paper, decided it would be easier to do red dots on white paper than what I had originally started with. And then we're going to mix match. Put the dots on the top and the stripes on the bottom. Christmas pages are so fun to do. It's like Halloween. There's so many ways to just play with the different color combinations, and I just love it. Christmas is my favorite. Oh, and if you've seen my pages from last year, then you might have noticed that today I actually did a bow that looks like a bow. That was something I struggled with last December. But, as long as you keep practicing, you will improve. I did. I tried to keep my paints and my palette in frame as much as possible while doing this, but it's really hard to have room on the table for everything and still have it show up in camera. So on that green gift bag, I added some, I believe, of the dark green to change the two tones. I didn't want them to blend together. And then I chose a second red to use for a ribbon going around my Christmas tree. And that is just a brownish yellow for some ornaments on the tree. Again, sorry it's not in frame. I tried, but yeah, there was a lot going on. And then I just mix a little bit of white I mixed the two reds together to get a third shade to use under the tree for the skirt. Now, if you're working with watercolors, you do want to start with your lighter colors first if you're going to be layering colors. And definitely have cardstock or something underneath the page once you get to the edge of the page. That's what all that motion was. I was adding some paper underneath to protect the other pages in the book. And this is mixing up a brown for my tabletop. And I just added a little bit more of the dark brown to what I already had because I wanted to deepen the color. And then a little bit more for the edge of the table and for the legs. This would be darker than the top of the table. And then the inside of the legs would be darker yet again because of the shadow from the table itself. So I started with a light shade of green and then I mixed in some darker greens to go on top of it. And that's what you want to do if you're using watercolors. Start with your lightest color first and then come in on top of it with darker shades to get more depth and dimension and detail. And this is just hash marks basically, and it gives it a tree look. Then out here I have an even different shade of green for a darker tree because it's outside, it's farther away. And I mixed in some black with my green to get that nice deep shade of green. And then inside on our sidewall, we're going to have a wreath. So again, I'm starting with the light green and just making lines. And then for the inside, they're going the opposite direction. Now, I'm still a novice, but I am learning about perspective and shading and highlighting and all of that. And I didn't want to get too ambitious today, so I didn't add any shadows or shading to the images other than the obvious ones on the table. So my light is left off in the house, and we're just going to pretend like there's really not any shadows going on. I toyed with having some yellow light coming out from underneath the lamp or coming out of the top of it even, but then like that would have opened up the whole shading and lighting aspect of it. And I decided I had gotten ambitious enough with this one. And this is just some white paint on top to make it look like it snowed. And for snow, you want to have like a little hint of blue to your white to make it show up on the page. And this is a different shade of brown to use on the floorboards. And I did change to a thicker brush. Oh, and here is, I mix a little white with the floor color to get beige for the baseboards. And that color went on the ceiling as well. I would have preferred to have white baseboards and a white ceiling, but it wouldn't really show up well in the book. And then I decided to go with a soft blue for the walls. Which unfortunately turned out to be pretty much the exact same shade as my snow. And I gotta wonder about the odds of that, because I figure once you've mixed your own colors, the odds of being able to find the same shade would be very difficult, except for when you don't want to do it. So I tried to fix it by adding some gray to the snow outside and more blue to the paint inside the house. So deepen the blue inside and add a gray outside to show a difference between the two. Now the only other, I mentioned shading and highlighting and all that. The only thing I did do was my back wall I painted darker than the two side walls, just because there would be light coming in through that massive window and the walls to the side would catch some of that light, so the paint would be lighter as it comes into the room. Right here we've got a couple of clouds, and I wanted to add some more hill and snow to the other side just to balance it out a little. And I didn't like the beige in the window, so I decided to change that and make it brown. And a couple of ornaments on the wreath, and our picture is painted, but now it's quite wrinkled, as you can tell. So I'm just going to spray it with some water and actually iron it. So since there was nothing on the back of those pages, That's for me to finish up November. And nothing done yet for December. I didn't have to worry about it, but as long as you have waterproof ink, it would be fine. I would protect any pages surrounding your watercolors with a paper towel before you iron them, because it does spray over onto the other page. Anyway, now it's time for the fun part, to add all the line work, which makes it all just pop. Now, like I mentioned before, I do have a second version of this, or part 2 rather, of this video, and that is showing exactly how I drew everything, and I will be narrating that as well, so giving pointers. So if you want to learn how to draw a room in perspective, then be sure to keep an eye out for the companion video. Hopefully it will go up tomorrow or the day after, so be sure to subscribe so you won't miss it. And I will also be setting up December and doing all of my Christmas pages, so I have a lot coming up and I can't wait to share it with y'all. But back to the matter at hand, I am really happy with how this room turned out. You can almost hear the Christmas music playing, or actually I guess you can because I have it running. But yeah, we got our little gift wrap station and ready for the holidays to begin. There you can see how the layering the paint, you can see all the detail in it. Now for the tree, I did switch to a thinner marker, and for the rolls of paper and the ribbon, simply because that medium point would have been too thick. Especially like on the scissors and the tape, you need it took a fine line. Except of course I decided on the gift wrap itself that a bolder line would be better, so I went back over it. There's a cute bow. I'm so proud of my bow. Just the final finishing touches on the presents. And then the floorboards, which those are fun to do. And last but not least, a title for my cover page. Can't believe it's December. So like I mentioned, if you would like to learn how to draw this yourself, then be sure and keep an eye out for the companion video where I will show you exactly how to do that. Thanks for watching, y'all. I hope you enjoyed, and until the next time, bye now.